Hey, I'm back. It's been a little while, but I have another trick I'd like to teach you. And all I need is a spectator could just take their hand, press back on the deck literally anywhere, take a peek at that card, and we're good to go. So basically, I'm going to try to find your card just like a normal find the card trick. But for this one, I'm not even going to use the deck. So we're going to get rid of the deck, and I'm just going to try to find the card, and it's Seven of Hearts. So that's the trick. Pretty good. I'm sure somebody else has done it. I came up with it originally, but a little peek method. So let's learn it. Alright, so to work this effect, like I said, shuffled impromptu deck, borrowed deck, doesn't matter. So you're going to bevel the edge a little bit. Just means to offset the cards so they're not straight up and down like that, but instead just push it over with your thumb so you have just a little more bevel. Now the reason you're going to do this is when the person's pushed back a card, if they're squared up, it's more likely for them to just sort of flip through a couple. Whereas if you bevel the edge, it's more likely that they'll just see just one when they do that with the cards. So, get the cards a little bit like that. And you're going to hold the cards so that your pinky is against the back side right there. And thumbs on the back, which allows for that sort of that bending. If the cards aren't, if it's not back there, it'll not good. So they're gonna just take a peek at a card. You don't need to see the card. You're just holding the deck really naturally. What happens is after they take a look, they pull back at a card. There's just going to be this gap, and the gap actually is going to run down the length of the deck. Even if from their perspective they just think they're peeking up a corner, you can get it. And if they don't pull back very far, you just get one of your fingers in there, and then you can transfer it until you get a pinky break like that. Now, really, they can do this. Their hand can push it back. Your pinky, they're just pushing back, and then you're doing the rest. So let's push one back, and then they let it in. Now let's see, that was the Jack of Clubs. And then you can square up a little bit. Now what I find is instead of working on getting like an absolute perfect squaring, trying to work for that, although it is a lot easier to get a perfect squaring when you're doing it with that sort of pulling it back instead of going from a cut. What is better instead of trying to make it look really perfect from this angle, because if you have a pinky break, they're just going to be a little bit off. They're just going to be a little bit off there. But if you take like half the deck, and if you do this, where you spread out the cards, from this angle, you can tell that there's like half the cards. You can see through it. But from this angle, really, you can't tell if that's a whole deck or not. And in person, you can't tell. It looks pretty good. It looks like a normal pack. So what you can actually do is they can pick a card, and then after you get your break down here, what you're going to want to do, and let's look at that break, what you want to do is just make sure that this part of the deck is facing them. So you can see in my performance, I held the deck like this so that it was facing my audience. So that way that little break from the side really is negligible, even though from here it looks pretty bad. Here it looks really bad, right? So just trying to have that idea of having it face them. Now what's cool is because this is a really small break, I mean it's a weensy break, your fingers can really just naturally lay on the sides of the deck, right? And the card is saved. So you're just going to do a little gesturing like this. You could have picked any card or whatever. And then as you bring the cards back, you're going to need to bring them back, and you're going to transfer that pinky break to a thumb break. So just really just grab the cards, and they'll naturally go like so. And that was the card they picked. So now what you're going to do is during this part you need to get this move down so you can maintain eye contact with your audience, because really the best cover is knowing that you're not looking here. If you look here and do the move absolutely subtly like that, that's the move we're going to do. It would be way better if you just have eye contact with them, and when you have eye contact, your eyes kind of lock in with somebody, and when their eyes are there, you can do the move kind of sloppily, and it doesn't really matter because they're looking at you. And you might need to look at, if you're doing this for 3 people, look at several people, you know. But just make sure it's happening when the eyes are off of your hands. Don't draw attention here. I mean, eye contact is some of the most powerful misdirection. If I'm going to do like a Hindu pass, whatever, what's this one called? I'm going to, like, I'm not going to execute it while they're looking at my hands. Just because even if it looks good, you know, it's like, well, it'd be way better if I did it when, you know, they're just not looking. So, hey, I have eye contact. Nothing happened. You know, just very, very clean that way if you have eye contact. Anyways, enough of that appendices. So somebody picks a card, they push back, they take a peek at it. My fingers are in there, and remember, if they only push back a tiny bit, just get your middle finger in there and transition it like that. So they look. Now you're gonna gesture a little bit just to get the idea that the card's lost, because you don't want to go straight to doing a move. You want to give a little time so that it's like you separating the actions. So okay, have the cards so that this is facing them, so that way they don't see the break. And now you're going to talk about, say, hey, you know, we're going to try to find your card, normal card trick. And as you do that, you're going to take your pinky, you're going to pull up a little bit like this, just doesn't look like much from the front, and you're going to take your pinky in there, and you're just going to side jog that card about, 1 pips width. I mean, you're just going to put it right to the side. Now, when I hold it from the front, what I do is, because it's going to have this natural break here, I don't really want to emphasize that, so I just put my fingers here, like so. And this is covering the card and all that's going on. And now my hand right here is creating a natural cover for that hidden card. Now, after I do that, you know, my hands is covering the card from their angle. All I need to do is I need to get a peak here. Now, making this is, to me, is the hardest part of the trick, is making the peak subtle. So I want something to cover that peak. So what I do is, and again, this is just lifting up here where the pinky break was and side jogging the card just a little bit. So it looks just like that. So it's hard for you to see without, like that. And sometimes I'll push it out with my pinky, and then I'll use my other pinky to rotate it like that. That pinky will push it out, and then this hand can kind of finish it. It's hard to get a good angle on that. Pinky pushes. Anyways, just barely little side jog. The best thing is, I mean, it just almost looks like you're squaring up the deck, and the best thing is if you just have eye contact with your audience, it will make plenty of cover. So you need to practice this so you know you can do it without eye contact. So then what I'm going to do is I'm looking for an opportunity to get a peek at the card. But I don't want to go, you know, no, I want it to make it as natural as possible. So if I'm already sort of setting up the whole trick by some of these sorts of hand gestures, that'll make it a lot easier to get a look at my card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find your card. When I do this, we're going to find your card like a lot of card tricks. For this one, I'm not even going to use the deck. And maybe I'll gesture with the deck. And now there's, from here, doink, 2 of spades or whatever, you've got their card. And from here, basically, I'm going to try to clean up, which means I just need to square up the deck. So to do that, though, and again, to do that, I can do a couple things. I could put my index finger here and then run my pinky along the side here, and that would square it up. I could do that if you want to do it one-handed. So in that case, and what I like to do is to cover the small motion with a large motion. So I'm going to put the cards down. Alright, we'll set them aside or hand them to the spectator or whatever. Or you could just simply take the cards into your other hand and set them down like this. And that's going to give you a natural opportunity to square up, because your other hand will grab just like that. So there's a couple options there for getting that thing squared. I really wouldn't square it in the hands. I would just try to say, you know, I'm going to try to use it, not even use the deck. And if you just drop them like that, any break won't really even matter. So, but that's the basic mechanics of the trick. I know this is not, the performance of this is much more complicated than the actual moves. So, one last time, bevel the edge a little bit. They take a peek at a card. My fingers go in. and then I'm going to tell them I'm going to try to find their card. But as I find it, I'm not even going to use the deck itself. So, and then set the cards down, and I know their card. So, I mean, this happens really fast. I think what sells this one and what I like about it better than say stop, I mean, that's fine, and you probably know a peek that uses that, but I think what's powerful about this is the idea that it feels so very personal for them just to take a peek like that, and for me to, not even use the deck to get, 10 of diamonds or whatever the card is. Anyway, that's the trick. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoy practicing and performing it.